Hey, it's Ev. This is a video about testosterone gel, the stigma surrounding it, and the myths that injections are better, that gel doesn't work, isn't real testosterone. I have talked about this before, but this is more specifically sort of 5 reasons why I think there is a stigma around testosterone gel. So firstly, just to clarify, I really have no issue with people preferring to be on injections, or if that's what they find works best for them. That's not the issue. This is more about people that make generalisations and say that gel overall doesn't work for anyone, it's not real testosterone, it's not really being on T, and sort of tell people that injections is the only real form of testosterone. Because that's definitely not true. Gel definitely can work for people. It worked a lot better for me. I get on a lot better with it, and I know a lot of people have a similar experience. Because I know a lot of people do have that viewpoint and that do say gel cannot work, it can't make certain changes happen, it can't get your levels within the right range. Some people also say that it can only affect the area that you apply it to, which is absolutely not true. Okay, so the first reason I think there's sort of a stigma around it is that sometimes doctors prefer to start people on gel. One reason might be because it keeps their levels more stable instead of having highs and lows. And when people want to be on injections and get put on gel, which is fair enough, they obviously talk about it negatively, like, oh, I really don't want to be on gel and this doctor's making me start on gel. And that sort of makes gel be seen in like a negative light, and people see it as like less desirable and not ideal. The second reason is that I think people have too high expectations for the first few months of going on testosterone. So they might go on gel for a few months, not much happens, because it is really common to not have that many changes in the first few months, and then they switch to injections, which again is fair enough if that's what you prefer. Which leads on to my third point, which is people make like a really unfair comparison. When they go on gel for a few months, not much happens, they switch to injections, and then further down the line they say, look, I was on gel for 6 months, not much happened, now I've been on injections for 6 months and I have all these changes. When really, when you were on gel for 6 months, you were 6 months on T. So you're comparing your body 12 months on T to your body 6 months on T, but sort of making out that that's just a comparison of gel and injections. When, if it was the other way around, if you were on injections for the first 6 months and then gel for the next 6 months, you probably would get the same. Like at the 12-month point, that is when you're going to have had more changes than at the 6-month point. It's not really the method that comes into it. Or it might be, but you don't know that. It's kind of similar to when people say, oh, when I was 16 I didn't shave my face, and now I've been shaving my face for 4 years and I have a beard, so I think shaving your face makes you grow a beard. When now you're 20 and you have a beard and you're comparing it to when you were 16, you're just older, so you can't say that you know that it's shaving that did that, because you're older. And facial hair grows over time, so. But yeah, that last point I was referring to people whose levels are within range. I see people even say, I was on gel, my levels were perfectly fine, but I didn't have that many changes because I was on gel. And now I've switched to injections, my levels are still the same, but I've had many more changes, so clearly injections work and gel doesn't. If your hormone levels are within the right range, your body reacts to that. That's why you start growing facial hair and your voice deepens and stuff. It's to do with your hormone levels in your blood. It's not to do with your body remembering if an injection came in or not. Your facial hair does not react to whether or not a needle came through your skin. If gel is getting your hormone levels the same as what injections is doing, injections isn't going to magically work way better. And if you're on gel and your levels are up there where they should be, your body isn't going to not react because it knows that you've been putting gel on your skin and not been having an injection. That doesn't make any sense. But yeah, I think people have expectations to be like growing really good facial hair and have a really deep voice within the first few months. And when that doesn't happen, they blame it on gel. But really, you don't know that it's gel's fault that you don't have those things. It's quite normal to not have that many changes a few months on T. Okay, my fourth point is referring to people who go on gel and their levels don't get high enough. It's quite common when you start testosterone, any method you take, that the first dose you get put on isn't right for you, and you get your blood test and you figure that out and your doctor changes your dose. When this happens with gel, again, people tend to blame gel, whereas like if someone starts on injections and the doctor says, oh, we actually need to make your injections closer together or inject you with more testosterone, usually, or actually I've never seen anyone then go on the internet and say, guys, testosterone injections, they don't work, they're not effective, they're not real testosterone. But when that happens with gel, people do tend to do that and say, I'm on 2 pumps a day, my levels aren't high enough, therefore gel isn't an effective form of testosterone. I think people are more likely to give injections a chance and say, okay, let's change my dose and try and get my levels up higher. Whereas with gel, it seems like people are more likely to say, actually, I give up on gel completely, let's just switch to injections, which I think is fine if you want to switch to injections. But it's more, they switch to injections and then turn around and say, gel isn't real testosterone, I was on it for 6 months and my levels weren't high enough, therefore it can't get your levels high enough at all for anyone ever, it's not real. Yeah, and then, like I said, they then switch from gel to injections. With injections they might find the right dose quicker, or that might just work out for them, or they might even have to change their dose of injections, but they don't tend to then turn around and say injections don't work either. I do acknowledge that for some people gel doesn't work out. Just like some people go on Testosterone, it doesn't work out, they have to switch to nebido. Some people go on Testogel, it doesn't work out, they switch to a different form of gel, like a different brand. Or they might switch from Testogel to Testosterone and that still doesn't work, they switch to nebido, that works. People have different forms of testosterone that their body just reacts best to, and that's completely fine. And I completely acknowledge there are some people who go on Testogel and it doesn't work for them. But there are also people who go on injections and that doesn't work for them. The issue is the huge generalisation over when gel doesn't work out for someone. They then go and say, look, gel, it can't make your voice drop, it can't get your levels above 11, it can't do this, it can't do that, it can't do this, just because it didn't work out for them. I've never seen someone who had injections not work out for them go on the internet and say testosterone injections isn't a real form of testosterone. And I think this is important to point out because there are a lot of people who can't go on injections. Like I've seen people say, I really want to start testosterone, but I have a really big fear of needles. I feel like I'll never be able to go on T. Obviously I'm not going to go on gel because that doesn't work, so I'm just going to be stuck pre-T forever. Because there's this myth that gel just doesn't work. It's really not true. Personally, I was on gel and then injections, and then I switched back to gel because it was much better at keeping my levels within range. And I do share that experience, and when people ask for other people's experiences on nebido and switching from gel to injections and stuff, I do say my experience, but I would never be like, look, don't go on nebido because it will make your levels crazy high and you'll have to come off for 6 months. That's just what happens with nebido. Nebido doesn't work properly. I'm not going to say that because for most people that doesn't happen. If it did, they probably wouldn't prescribe it. The other reason is that injections are more common than gel, so it's documented better. So if you find someone that's trans and that's on testosterone that you look up to, that's had a lot of changes you'd want to have, whose like body might be like what you want your body to be like, it's more likely that they're going to be on injections because that's just a more common form of testosterone. So I think that gets in people's heads that injections is like the ideal best form of T and that anyone with good changes is on injections. But that's like not true. When I switched to injections, I really didn't have any physical changes that I didn't already have, like being started from gel. I can't really think of anything. I just continued to get more hairy, but I'd already obviously started getting hairy. My voice didn't change again. I didn't have any more lower growth or anything. The only real differences were probably down to my levels getting messed up from being on nebido and not from injections itself. Yeah, that's about it. If you do prefer injections to gel for yourself, that's absolutely fine, but just don't go around saying that gel isn't a real form of testosterone, that it doesn't work for anyone, because that's really not true. And if you are wanting to start testosterone and you don't want to go on injections, don't be worried that gel doesn't work, because, again, it's not true. That's just a myth. There's a big stigma surrounding it. That's 5 reasons why I think there is one. Yeah, I get on better with gel, but everyone's different.